All right, so now we have the theme running. It's working technically. We just want to make sure that we can actually apply things to it. So I want you to notice is a couple of things. Let's say we just so we can test it to make sure it's working. Let's say we just want to take the background and we want to make it black. Okay. I want you to notice one thing now. See this little strip right here? That's really a dark, like a light gray. Watch that. So what I'm gonna do is let's just go to my theme, and I know how to make it black, right? So we'll do body. Boom, right? So we just do a selector. We'll just select the body, and then we'll do background hyphen color, and then we'll just do black, right? So obviously this isn't what I want to do. I'm just trying to show you how it works. So we'll save it, and then I'll just go back to my theme, and we will refresh it. Okay? And we hit refresh, and we wait, and you'll see, oh no, it didn't take the background black. But if you look, it did actually work, okay? Now, let's say we want to make my P elements. Let's say I want this P element to be, I don't know, red, okay? So we can do kind of the same thing. I can go in here, right? And then we can say P, and then we'll just say color, and we'll just make it red, okay? So we'll say P elements should be red, right? So we'll save that. We'll go back over here. We'll go over here, and we'll hit refresh. And what you're going to see is that it's, there you go. So now you can see it worked okay. Okay. Now, the problem is it's changing all P elements red, but I can override some. But I would have difficulty doing some things, like maybe, like that's fine. You could try to go through and change a bunch of defaults. And we can use our basic selectors, okay? Most of the time, this actually isn't even going to work well for us, though. And the reason being is that these defaults are already being set by Divi itself. The only reason why these would have a chance at even overriding them is because the child theme gets read afterwards, so it would run after them. But if for any reason that these, have classes that are already attached to them, that are already applying a color, so for some reason when you made this, if you specifically attached a color to this, this will not work. This P element won't override it, okay? So you have to remember there's a bunch of classes that are being applied. That's how this whole thing's being formatted, right? They all have different classes. But let's say like I wanted to have, this background, I want it to be black, but it's just not black, right? Like that kind of stinks. So let's say I want to make this black. Well, obviously I could do it through Divi, right? But again, if we weren't using Divi, or if we were trying to get to something we can't get to, or Divi just doesn't seem, quite frankly, you could just use the editors inside of Divi to get most of it. But I want to show you how to do this. But let's say we couldn't get quite in there. What I could do is utilize, and remember we did do this in Web Design 1 at the end. It's like the last thing we did. We could utilize the web browser itself. It has developer tools, which you can go up in here and go to the menu items, Web Developer, and then go to Web Developer Tools. Or, just to make it a little bit easier, this is the element I want to control, right? So I would right-click over top of the element, and then you go to Inspect Element. I'm in Firefox, so in Chrome it would be, I think, just Inspect. And it'll automatically bring up the inspector window or panel, and then you'll see all of the things. It'll automatically highlight that section. And as I hover over it, you'll see that it'll hover over the various elements. But when you right-click on it, it'll highlight the element itself. Shows me all the HTML of everything that's in the site, so you can see all the stuff that's making. I can see the classes that are attached to them, right? So I could actually just manually try to write those and use that. Shows me the style sheets that are being applied there, where they're being applied from. It's really robust and it's nice. The easiest way though, like let's say I just want to grab this one thing, I can just right click over top of that thing, where it's highlighted here, and then you go to copy, and then it's going to be CSS selector. I think on Chrome it's copy and then copy CSS or something, I can't remember, but CSS selector, and then you're going to go to here, and then what we'll do is we'll just add another rule, Control V. That'll be my selector, okay? So it automatically gives me the selector, boom, and then we'll just do background hyphen color, and then we'll just do we'll do gray, okay, just so we can see it. All right, so background color gray. Save this. We'll go back here, and then we'll hit refresh, and you will see that that background color will now be gray. Yay! Isn't that great? Okay. But you'll notice that it's only that one that's gray, although actually that's the only one I think that's white that we can even change. But you see that this is still white, so basically the other thing that's white is not gray. Okay, so it only grayed out this one section because it's very specifically grabbing this. So if I look at that code a little more in depth, you'll see it says div dot. So it's looking at divs, and then it has this class applied to it. And then it's getting the child that's number 2 of it. So basically, it's only applying to that specific sub Divi division that it's applying it to. So you might want to do that like we just did, but you might need to adjust it. So for instance, if I wanted this apply to basically all sections that don't already have colors on them, what I could do is, in this case, I'll remove this part so it doesn't just go to that, and then I'll save it, okay? And then we'll go in here and we'll refresh, and this should still be gray. Second, this will still be gray, but and these ones down here won't be because these already have colors applied to them. But if I go to the top, you'll see that now the top is also gray because that's also part of that. Also has that same class and div structure applied to it. So it'll apply to everything that has that. And generally speaking, what you want to do is try to be as broad as possible, because the problem is like, okay, so that might have grabbed that specific paragraph, but what that would mean is that on another page that it would grab the second section like that and make it gray, which is not something I would want, right? So instead, I'm just gonna say, oh, make all the sections that have that class applied to it, make them gray. Now you will notice that obviously this one down here doesn't have it, and that's because this one had a color specifically already applied. This one was set to default. All right, but you can just go through and like if you want to very specifically grab something and it's just for this one thing, you could just right click. Like let's say I just want to take featured work and make it bigger. I could right click on it, inspect element, get to it here. Although actually it has a span applied to it, so I'm going to have a little bit more of a problem trying to target it. But we'll right click on it. We'll copy CSS selector, go into here, Control V to paste it. You can see it's a very specific path, right? So again, I would want to like maybe take all of this out if I was trying to just broadly change things that are of the type 4. I don't know what class that is. But I'm going to leave it all there just so I only apply it to that. And then I could do, font hyphen size, and then we'll do like, I don't know, not 2 of them. We'll do 4 EM, which is going to make it huge, but we'll save that. And then when I go back here, and I'm just going to close this out so I don't see it anymore. And when we refresh it, this should get much larger, okay? So there you go. You can see it's gigantic. But it's only going to apply to that one. It shouldn't apply to anything else because it's such a specific one. So what you can do is copy it, but what you're going to want to do afterwards is you can't just straight up just slap them on in there because this is very specific, which means the more specific it is, the more likely it's going to actually work. But it also means that it's only going to work on that very specific thing. So you might have to do some adjustments like we did here. Sometimes you can just look at it and kind of guess. You could look at the things and then just broadly like use one piece of it instead of the whole big thing. Like for instance, I could try taking this part out and so the div part and just put the class name. I already did do that and it didn't work, so I actually had to leave that in. So you have to play around with it and see, manipulate it a little bit and see where that gets you, because you're dealing with an unknown because you don't know what your theme's classes are, right? It's impossible to know. I guarantee if you ask the employees of whoever made the Divi theme, they don't know all the class names because there's thousands of them probably. So it just doesn't make sense to try and like figure those out. You're better off just trying to navigate as best you can and get close to it. So anyway, that's how you do it. So I would just like you to do like 2 or 3 of those. Just try to apply some sort of formatting. It doesn't have to make it look better. Obviously, these all made it look worse. I just want you to try it out and see what you can do. But the main thing is just to make sure that the theme itself is working, and then that way, if you need to add stuff, you can add stuff through this theme itself, which is pretty cool.